I'll call to order this September 15th, 2025 Personnel and Policy meeting. Could we please rise for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Elizabeth Dauberman. Mary Lee Hall.
Here.
Samantha Hall.
Here.
William Hall.
Here.
Jeremy Hash. Jennifer Henkel.
Here.
Nathan Henkel.
Here.
James Holly.
Here.
Joseph Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, procedure for public comment. We have none, so I will roll on to item 3.01, the first reading of board policies of this current policy cycle. Since it's the beginning of our year, I always like to go through a little bit of just sort of a refresher. So as per our board policy review schedule, the policies discussed at this committee meeting were distributed to the board members at our August board meeting. Tonight, I will bring each policy up for discussion and share the nature of the revision or the creation. This is an opportunity for board members and the public to share input, but there is no voting action. We will then review these policies and/or revisions at the board meeting on Wednesday as a first read, and then we would move to a second read in October with another vote. Upon passage of the vote in October, the policies are final approved and effective. Since we are in a new policy cycle for a new school year, I just wanted to provide this refresher. So as we go into our policies, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through what we have, and then after I kind of go through what the nature of them are, then we can figure out if there are any particular ones that we want to talk about. So we have 15 policies on this cycle. They are all updates, nothing that is new. Policy 125 is for adult education. This policy was last reviewed March 2022. The language was simplified and included delegation of responsibility to the superintendent or designee. Did anybody have any comments on this policy? Okay. Moving along, policy 205, postgraduate students. This policy was last reviewed October 2019. The policy clarifies providing continuing education once a student has either graduated from high school or reached the age of 21 is not required. Anything on this particular policy? Any comments?
I do have a typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the first line, it says the board hall.
All
I
shall.
know there's a lot of halls in the room, but I think we mean to say shall there.
Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, moving forward to policy 223, motor vehicles. This policy was last reviewed March 2022, and it just clarifies the use of motor vehicles on campus by student drivers. Any changes or comments or questions? All right, moving right along, policy 238, release of students. This was a locally created policy and was last reviewed October 1997, and it's updated with student release guidance. Any questions or comments on this?
I'm just curious what the, what replacing pupils with children is. Did anyone mention what the impact of doing that is? Because that's the only change, is the word pupils is replaced with children.
It does change the emergency care card to emergency
Oh,
contact.
yeah, okay, I missed that. Yeah, those pretty minor changes, but I'm just curious what, anyone know?
Yeah, and those were specifically the recommendations for PSBA.
Yeah.
Just when you're looking at consistent verbiage and language that, you're consistent throughout. Because in guidelines, if you look at the guidelines part, it references children, but then under police and dental, those two indicated pupils, so they changed those to children.
Okay, so maybe just different language has been in fashion and they're making it consistent. So there's no change in the sense of what it means. Okay. All right.
Is there a substantial difference between children and students? Because, I think
I can't speak to that, Joe. I just know when I look in the guidelines section, they do reference children. I know students is in the last specific part of that, but I think, if the board wants to go with either students or children.
Not all children are students.
Yeah,
Not all
I was going to say,
children.
Jen, that's what we typically say. They're
people's children, they're our students, is how we usually. That was perfectly said.
And I wonder if pupils, the one possibility is incorporating a student that's 18 and above would be pupil versus child. Or student
Student
covers
would cover
all.
all.
Makes sense.
And some of the policies may not cover.
'Cause
An
I mean, I think
18-year-old,
we have some
18.
students that are above 18.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess looking at this, would we not apply this to an 18-year-old, or is this not applicable to an 18-year-old?
Well, the 18-year-old wouldn't require.
They wouldn't need a,
The authorization of the parent, correct?
right, so maybe that's the reason for the change, yeah. Okay.
All right. Moving along to policy 317.
Oh, sorry, going back.
Okay.
If we're gonna do that, we should change, in dental medical appointments, we should go ahead and change pupils to childs, I think, if we're gonna be consistent throughout. In the pupil, it says pupils' parents,
Yeah, it should say children.
the child's
It's a
parents.
teaser.
And in the previous one, we have release said child, so, make that edit.
Got that.
Okay. All right. Policy 317, conduct disciplinary procedures. This policy is recommended by PSBA for revision to reference Code of Professional Practice and Conduct for Educators. Were there any questions or comments on this?
No, ma'am.
All right. Moving along to policy 317.1, educator misconduct. This policy is recommended for update by PSBA, and it includes minor terminology changes regarding Title IX and sexual harassment. So I think that was just for updates. Any questions on that one or feedback? All right. Policy 608, bank accounts. This policy was last reviewed 1992. Any changes for that one? Okay. All right, and then for policy 626, 626.1, and actually I'm going to jump down to 827. So 626 is federal fiscal compliance, 626.1 is travel reimbursement federal programs, and 827 is conflict of interest. These all have been updated by PSBA for the same reason. So PSBA revisions to the policy and associated attachments are due to changes to, and Sue probably knows what this is, but 2 CFR Part 200 that directly impacts how school districts manage federal grants. I don't know what,
So it's federal compliance requirements.
Okay.
Another way to say it.
any changes to any of that, not federally, but any other changes to anything? All right, it just seemed efficient to group them together. All right, and then on policy 702, gifts, grants, and donations, this policy was added by district administration and was last reviewed in August 1992. The changes align with adopting PSBA language. Any questions or comments on this one? All right. And then moving to policy 815.
Sorry,
Oh,
I do have one question on that. So looking at the adopt, under delegation of responsibility, we currently have a strike through so it says delegation of responsibility, the superintendent or designee shall, is the strike through of the brackets, is that saying we're adopting every one of those?
That's what I would interpret
Okay,
it as.
I couldn't remember,
Yes,
Oh,
so
okay.
we had to choose, so we just got rid of the brackets.
the brackets
We
mean
were
an
gonna keep
optional.
1 through 5.
Yeah, I've seen that before, and I guess usually we are kind of selecting from a menu of options, but this was just either keep it or don't, and we chose to keep all, okay.
And there's no conflict between any two of these?
I didn't see any.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to pop down to 913.1, use of private funding sources. This was a locally created policy. We're going to retire it because some of what was covered in there is covered in 702. Got that right?
And it's also, it's a local policy, so
Versus-
my recommendation, if we want to do something with private funding, we start from scratch and do that.
Any questions on deleting 913.1? All right. Okay, now I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to go to 815.1, the acceptable use of generative AI in education. Do we have, I have comments, but does anybody else have any comments? Because I think some of mine are covered by others. Joe?
I would like to define the age restrictions for AI as sort of like the industry standard now.
Do you have wording?
With, well, not exactly, but if you do, that would be helpful. I wasn't sure even like if we just put it in line with the authority or if it should be part of the definitions. I think that was kind of a,
Do both.
we can do both. Yeah,
I would definitely like to have it be part of the definition,
okay. Okay, so then
but that's not, I like the first thing you said too.
putting it in line here,
I think so, yeah.
okay.
So what would we give as far as a change?
I think the change, let's see. I forget my exact,
So the line is specifically, the district will adhere to specific end user and age restrictions for approved generative AI tools. Is that the one we're working on?
yes.
Okay.
I think we can get rid of this. Well, I don't know. We have specific in there twice, but maybe that's fine. I would say, adhere to, I forget what I wrote.
Age restrictions in user.
Yeah, it was sort of, I think the verbiage I was thinking about was something along the lines of, will adhere to the industry standard age restrictions, which are from 13 to 18 with prior parental consent. And
That was perfect.
Do we need to be clear? Now, I mean, one of the issues here, of course, is that this is rapidly changing. And while the policy is named acceptable use of generative artificial intelligence in education, there are certain, you can really divide AI into more kind of categories than generative or not. And so I guess if we think about that, I guess this does say for approved generative AI tools. Are there any generative AIs that don't fall under that, or does that pretty much cover the gamut for generative AIs that we follow those standards? And is there any issue with doing that for generative AI? Because some of the examples that have been given for like the elementary school aren't really what I call generative AI. It's-
no, they're not. I mean,
Yeah.
Could you
I think
read them?
there's a second thing that we should add to the definition, which is the classifications I think we talked about during the AI committee. Generative AI, predictive AI, descriptive AI, diagnostic AI, prescriptive AI, reactive AI, and then autonomous AI. I think having those defined in the policy might be really helpful. So because as we were talking about before, okay, it's a math application. Students going through this, the AI sort of learns where the student is and can generate new questions for that, at the edge of that student's ability. That's not generative AI specifically.
Or if it
That would
depends. It kind of depends. If it's selecting from a problem bank of predefined problems, then it's not generative. If it actually is attempting to create the problems on the fly, but I would expect to be more likely to do the former.
Well, that would be, I would kind of classify that, at least in my mind, as something that's called a reactive AI.
Okay, you'd call that reactive.
Where
Okay.
reactive AI, the difference between it and generative is that reactive doesn't typically have a memory attached to it. Like, I remember this person. Okay, well, this is where the student is. These are the questions that I've given them. Okay, these are a new set of questions.
Okay. Yeah, so all the more reason to have those
But
But if we,
definitions in
if we
there.
attach, let's just go with 13. We attach 13 to this. Essentially, that's going to cut a grade. Not necessarily in half, but that grade is, you're going to have portions of that grade that are 12 and then portions of that grade that are 13, giving, that's very ambiguous. I mean, how does a
Well-
teacher
And that's
deal
right,
with
seventh
that?
Well,
grade,
right, but
So
see,
should it be attached to a grade level rather than, if we attach it to anything, should it be attached to a grade level versus an age? Because how would a teacher effectively administer
right.
when half of a
Well,
class is 12 and or half of his class is 12 and the other half is 13?
I mean, I think in that case,
What happens?
they wouldn't use what the 12-year-olds couldn't use.
And the problem is the platform doesn't give license to grades, it gives license to age.
The age is right.
Well,
So it's-
then you have to make it that the entire grade level is of that age. How do you do it otherwise?
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I'm asking educators,
Yeah.
Well, how does
Yeah.
that work?
They
But-
can't use it then.
it has to be so it has to be implemented, I mean, legally, there's liability, I think, if we don't
Open it
base
up.
it on age.
Right.
So if you, because, let's say there's a student who, for whatever reason, is much younger, like, you're talking seventh grade is where you're gonna have the biggest issue with that, but let's say you've just got a young kid that's in seventh grade for whatever reason, that's where you run into the problem. You still need to make sure that you're not, that with that particular child, we need to be cognizant of that and not violating the end user agreement.
Not to
with
mention
that
the fact
11-year-old
that
or whatever.
our agreement is centered around one of the distinct features that we have is age appropriateness.
Mm-hmm.
How can we say that we're doing age appropriateness if we're using platforms that have user agreements that we plan on, we have to be in line with those?
Yeah, and I
That's the
think,
definition of age appropriateness.
I think from an implementation perspective, that just means if 12-year-olds aren't allowed to use it, seventh grade's not using it.
Yep.
well,
That's
and
what I
it's-
was getting at.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is that how you guys are seeing it?
That's how we would. And the other that I would raise is, we've had some students that have accelerated grades. So maybe, 11-year-old in the seventh grade classroom or, further on. So if you go by grade level, you could have
Multiple ages.
you could have that. But by going with COPA, 12 and under, we know that if you have a split class, that you're not going to be, teachers wouldn't be utilizing that tool in that classroom.
Yeah, and,
COPA's kind of our,
yeah.
Guideline.
Guideline
Guiding
here.
light. Yeah, and especially in like math, we have students who are taking, they're taking a more advanced math class than most of their peers, but every other class, they're maybe in line with their peers. And so that means that you don't want to say, okay, then that grade level, because that student comes up for math and is with many students in an older grade level, that grade level can't use AI at all. No, it's just in that math class, we're not using generative AI that's not appropriate for under 13.
I do have a follow-up question to that, if I could, Dr. Ruppert. For high school ages and classes that are, AP and so forth, and they're using and have been using AI programs for a while, did our passing of the AI policy take some of that ability away to be evaluated, or are they still able to use what they've already been using all this time?
Yeah, part of what we discussed when we passed this is the AI committee is working specifically with teachers to inventory the current tools and the current programs that we're using. And in doing so, we have to identify then, going through our vetting process of those, not only working with the administrator, our technology department, and director of curriculum to determine the appropriateness of it. And I know that's a list that Dr. Bryson had talked about, that's something that's going to take a little bit of time as we go through, because once they get approved, then, we'll make those, public to the parents, et cetera, on our website. So there are some tools that they may be using. We know there may be programs that are currently being utilized there, but we still have to go through and vet those to make sure that, they do meet the criteria of what we need, that, their information is not being shared, they're not entering it in, personal identifiable information.
just to follow up on that, how many tools are currently on our list of being evaluated, would you say? Is there a ballpark, just a ballpark?
Generative AI tools, I want to say under 10. You know, the elementary, you know, I believe there may have been up to 2, but are they appropriate? You know, middle school will have a few more than that. And then the high school, you know, there's more tools that, you know, the high school would have access to. But we're still going through that process of evaluating previous tools that have been utilized, but even some new ones that may come out that we don't even know about yet.
I just was concerned a little bit that we might have been disruptive, you know, in sending the policy to classes that are already using something that might be, they're depending on it, and then having to pivot because of the policy and waiting for that, whatever it is that they're using, to be approved.
Yeah, and I think some of the initial discussions, we haven't said, like, okay, until the committee goes through it all, you can't use it. But again, even for the general public, it's like, don't be thinking like Gemini, don't be thinking ChatGPT. We're talking more often than not generative AI that's integrated in the software they're using. So through our tech department and the vetting process, you're looking at, okay, you can't just get rid of that, right? And so what does it do when parent permission is needed? And what happens if 16 kids in the class don't get the permission back? Does that shut us down indefinitely? So those are some challenges I think we're working through, and more than likely the committee will be able to come back with recommendations to modify the policy. So I know we've gone to this, the policy's in place, it's still a guardrail, and like, I think it's a great question, Mary Lee, because we can't implement from day one for that reasoning. Purpose wasn't to shut everything down. But the positive is it's a huge list. And like, even if you looked at the elementary, I think the 2 that are on the list are a part of current programming that's contained in the program versus out sharing data with using data to learn, modify, and then kick something out to the kid, so.
And is that similar to what an age number would create? That you're gonna have to,
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty safe. Like, we haven't come into the 12-13 split or something like that. They do kind of naturally go, in one direction or the other. And I think what we're seeing too, the older the group, let's say, I'll give it for instance, our CAD course, architecture design, project Lead the Way is the curriculum. You utilize their recommended software, and as a part of that, there's a chat box. Well, that's generative AI, but what a great tutor for a kid that almost has assistance on the fly versus waiting for the teacher to come around, but you can utilize it in a safe environment versus a chat GPT, where it's not kicking out the whole project for the kid. It's simply, here's where you are, have you thought about this?
Those would typically be domain restricted, like there's guardrails there too.
Yeah.
Which, knowing those as part of this whole thing is helpful too.
Do we have clarity on the edit for Joe's suggestion?
For the categories?
So the categories you have, right?
Yes.
And we can include those in the definitions. And then you had an edit to the,
Where we say specifically a district will adhere to specific end user and age restrictions for approved generative AI tools. Now I forget what I said.
I know, and it was so perfect.
But just basically that I'd like to indicate here that we are skewing towards the industry standards of 13 to 17 require parental consent.
And then what did you want to have in the definitions?
under definitions, there's a,
Under definitions, I think we should say, I don't know. I mean,
Let's just create
Types,
that.
have a heading, types of AI, under definitions, and,
yeah, AI classifications, that's where our list should go, under definitions.
so, bolded heading AI classifications, and then the list.
So bolded AI classifications, now the list of the 7 underneath it, bolded.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do we need to put age in there too? I don't think we do.
Not in
I
definitions. Not
I
that
don't
I'm
think it
looking
needs to be in
at.
definitions.
And would the existing generative artificial intelligence, would that go under the AI classifications as one of the 7?
That's interesting.
Generative,
Right here. She's asking, does that go
Oh.
in one of the 7?
you know, I mean, that's sort of like an umbrella term.
So it could be, could
So
they be
Would they be
subsets?
it would be
Subheads
like
under that?
types of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Let's do, like, I'm trying to figure out how we say, these are kind of the classifications we're going to use for types of artificial intelligence.
So would you have that as the header, and then, like Mrs. Hall was saying, subsets of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of AI classifications, it would be types of AI?
Types of artificial, or we can use the shorthand, types of AI,
Well, yeah, either way, I'm just,
yeah. I mean, the list that I think you have has some, it has some helpful examples in there. It's just sort of to help frame out what these things would be like.
And Dr. Ruppert, I can't remember, when we were in the committee, did we say that we were aiming for sorting all the things that our school is going to use so that the community knows which type they would fall under? Did we say we were going to do that or not?
I remember when that information was shared, that list of categories, it was shared at the latter part of the meeting as an introduction, like we do have these additional categories, if I'm correct with that, Joe. I don't know if we got into the sorting of them or adding what we're using
Yeah.
specifically under those individual categories.
I think it's got to be part of the approval process, like as we're going, as a tool comes in to be approved.
So it
That
informs
whole
our
workflow.
understanding.
Okay, well, these are the items that this particular tool checks.
Yeah, because it shows the limitations.
It's a self-driving car that's autonomous, okay? And it talks to you while he does it, so it's generative.
I
You're
have,
describing Kit.
Okay.
I have an addition I'd like, but I don't want to jump in if anybody else has something that they'd like to do.
I have a quick one.
Go for it.
So down under prohibitions, I'd like to add an additional one. Staff and students shall not use generative AI tools or resources to create any likeness of any student, staff member, or district official.
You want that as number 4?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. I was like, I don't see that here.
yeah, no, it's new.
That's the point.
I can repeat that if you need, so.
So you're taking it beyond number 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Likeness of any
so,
kind.
yeah.
Can you say it again?
Yeah, sure. Staff and students shall not use generative AI tools or resources to create any likeness of any other student or any, let's just say any student, staff member, or district official.
Can I make a suggestion to
Yeah.
add to that?
Mm-hmm.
Without their permission.
Without their permission. Okay. Because,
That way-
yeah,
That way, if Len decides to put out to the 11th graders, put me somewhere in an AI image, he can say, go for it.
okay. Yeah, I'm open to that, yeah. And 2 will keep it from the 2 will hopefully keep them from going off the rails, even if he does say that.
Yeah.
All right. So what I was considering after the last board meeting, and I'm going to need help with wordsmithing, though we could just have it linked to another policy. At the end of this policy, I really do think that we are considering generative AI use as we are instruction material. I mean, it is curriculum. And so then I think because of the ever-evolving nature of AI, we could be within our legal, we could be in the clear legally with something, and then that platform changes, and suddenly we're not. Or we're still legal, but it evolves in a way that maybe isn't appropriate for students. I think that we have to have a mechanism for challenging. And so I really liked in policy 109.1, at the end of that policy, you have challenges to instructional materials. We could literally just borrow that language and put that at the end of this one, or we could just go ahead and, mention. And I guess if we do that route, we have to say the use of generative AI is considered instructional material, and the challenges to instruction material applies here too. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So the challenge would be, like, who would be doing the challenging?
A parent, a teacher,
Right.
anyone in our district.
Okay.
And it would follow the exact same way. I'm open to opinions on if you would like to have it handled a different way, but I mean, we literally have a policy already in 109.1 for challenges of instructional material.
Yeah, it's a lengthy one, so it might be easiest to edit the policy within 109.1, and instead of saying just certain instructional materials and presentation materials or resources, we could include technology tools to include AI.
And
Probably
then
easier to do it that
we
way.
could do it that way, and then we could just have in this policy.
A link back.
A link back.
Yeah.
With a line that's subject to, because we also have, presenter challenge criticism form, and then the request for reconsideration. We can have all that be a part of this.
So practically speaking, then, would we, since it's outside of this cycle, would we do that in January, or we would just add it in for the next month? I mean, it's not a huge change. Like what?
Can we add it for first read for Wednesday?
The only thing is you're making the changes, I guess, that was going through my head was, do we want to run these by Jeff? I would think we would, and I don't know that we're going to get that done between now and Wednesday. So we could make October 1st, we could have this one go out of cycle by a month. We could have October be first read and November be second, and then we could bring 109.1, because can I go back to 109.1?
Sure.
Just to make sure. So what you want to do, instead of pulling that language into this policy, we just want to change 109.1 and reference it from this policy. Is that what I thought I was hearing?
I think so.
I'm okay with either way. I couldn't wrap my mind around what would be easier, so.
I think it would be easier because if we don't do it that way, then we're maintaining the same language in two different policies.
Right. You're referring to one without the change.
Yeah.
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 It seems like it's the more straightforward way to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is time sensitive by any means, and with the way that, if anybody had a complaint, it's not like Dr. Bryson and Dr. Reppert wouldn't listen to it anyway. So, this is just formalizing what can already be put in practice.
Right, yeah. There's no policy we have forbidding complaints, and if the complaint is justified.
Right.
And that's not going
I'm gonna listen
to
to
hold
it.
you guys up on the work that you're currently doing.
No.
I think it's a formalizing.
So it could wait till the next policy cycle, absolutely.
Well, and I'm not even advocating waiting for the next policy
Till
cycle. My
October.
thought would be we make these changes, as you're saying, we bring 109.1 forth too, and first read would be October instead of Wednesday night, because I don't know if we can pull it off by Wednesday night. And then second read will be November, so not waiting to the next cycle, but just moving it in. Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Len, you?
I had a couple things that are not really policy related, but things that I wanted to suggest for the AI committee. So going along the lines of what I was thinking about with like parent facing, would there be a way to talk about AI literacy examples by grade level? Just because generative AI is a topic that is an umbrella, and then you have the categories, and that's more helpful. But I think from a parent perspective, like what types of AI literacy by grade level would be something that would sort of connect all the dots. So could that be something that could be discussed at the AI committee? And I don't know if it would be part of this document, if it'd be part of a parent facing. I haven't sort of gotten that far in my thought process, but I thought that would be helpful. And then the second thing is, in this policy, I know that if we that the enforcement says that there are things that we would do, but would then that enforcement get wrapped back into the handbook in terms of, I don't know, violations or how it would go with any of our disciplinary procedures?
Yeah, I think when, the way the handbook is written regarding any violation of, or the acceptable use, violation of, the computer software, et cetera, that would fall underneath our current handbook, unless.
Or plagiarism,
Yeah, and
you got a multiple.
We linked that in this policy. It says that but using it inappropriately is considered plagiarism, which circles back
Represented
to
as
the
your own.
handbook.
Okay. And then the last thing that I wanted to pose for the AI committee is we have, and I guess this maybe goes a little bit to the instructional materials piece maybe, but we have vetting on the way coming in. How are we evaluating to see how the AI tool's doing after it's been vetted?
So like a recurring.
Yeah, a way to be able, and I don't know what that looks like. I feel like it needs to be added. I just don't know how.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something that the AI committee can talk about as far as recurring the amount of usage we're seeing. Because obviously we should have some analytics around that from IT. And then, any sort of recurring evaluation because, GPT-4 and GPT-5 are technically very different things.
They evolve.
They evolve.
Okay, those were my suggestions. Thank you.
Do we need that in the policy, or is that something that the AI committee can take up as part of the ongoing evaluation process?
I'm going with the ongoing evaluation process. I think
Yeah.
for some, you're gonna want
Yeah,
more immediate feedback, others not so much.
There's also ambiguity about what's a new tool. Because, like you said, GPT-5 is very different from GPT-4, but a person could argue, well, it's just ChatGPT, that's the product. Yeah,
we
well,
need to add versioning into our.
well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's gonna be a judgment call, and it's like what one company decides to call a new version, another might just be a new release that
Yeah.
isn't versioned, so there's a judgment call that has to happen there. I mean, obviously, if a totally new company gives you a totally new tool, then that's a new tool, but updates to existing tools, you're not gonna, I don't think you're gonna be able to policy that one.
No.
So what you could have in policy is, and I think as long as the AI committee is very active, which could be from now on, but at least for a while here, I think these things, we're gonna be handling them and getting an idea of how frequently we need to revisit. I mean, at the moment, revisiting annually seems minimum, we might even discover that's too infrequent, but maybe things will stabilize and annually seems fine. So right now, I think we're gonna review things whenever it seems like it's necessary. So we'll hear there's a new release of ChatGPT, and if we're using that anywhere, then we're gonna take a look at it.
And one thing I just wanted to point out in the policy that was approved, the evaluation and monitoring of generative AI, it does indicate that the district shall establish process of ongoing evaluation and monitoring of generative AI tools and resources within the district and on district computers, including periodic data collection on impact of AI on student learning. So that's already in there, and then it
Yeah.
follows up with the Board of Education will receive the approved list. That's what I was trying to find within the policy when Bob answered for me previously. I just wanted to find that. So we do have that evaluation and looking at the data and how it's being utilized and being reported back periodically.
So is it utilization, but then also like alignment? How does it get evaluated for curriculum alignment? Do you know what I mean? Like if there is, so like let's say there would be a new version or something out, does that go back through the process again of vetting?
We have not established that as a committee,
We haven't.
which does bring up an excellent question when there are new versions to determine whether or not that goes back into that vetting process.
I think,
I mean, I think there's probably some wiggle room. It might be something that we have to discuss in the AI committee or something like, there's minor releases, which are bug fixes, and hey, this thing started hallucinating after you asked it the second time. Or, major releases. Major releases are usually where things change structurally.
what Sam said, I think we can, so where it says generative AI tools, the thing we were just talking about, shall be evaluated and authorized on an ongoing basis. It has a list: age appropriateness, bias, privacy protections, accessibility standards, and data security. It would be very easy to add to that educational value, yeah. I mean, and that, yeah, we need to. I mean, honestly, in a lot of cases, that's the first thing you should look at, because if nobody, if it's not valuable, then we don't even need to worry about the rest of it.
So are we suggesting just for that we would make it
Yeah, I'm
update?
suggesting we make that change, yeah.
So does that make sense where we're adding that?
No, I'm not there yet.
So delegation responsibility for paragraphs,
Okay, got it. Delegation of responsibility.
the fourth paragraph.
Okay, can you say it again?
And there's a list there, and we're just saying add educational value to the
Number
list.
5?
Number 5.
To number 5, number 5. I'm looking at where it says for evaluate and authorized on an ongoing basis for age appropriateness, bias, privacy protection. Sorry, the list is,
Oh,
the list is not,
wrong
yeah, it's
list,
not a numbered
wrong
list,
list.
it's just a list in text.
That's-
Yeah, that one.
Okay, got it. Do you want it first? Because I know you said something about
Sure.
first. Sure.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
It's a good idea.
Sorry, I was on the wrong list.
Any other discussion?
One other thing under delegation of responsibility, I know this is something that the AI committee's talked about briefly, but under delegation of responsibility, district shall obtain prior informed consent from parents, guardians. I think we need to work in here that is per tool.
Yeah, I've thought long and hard about that one. How do we, and I have an idea, but how do you not burden, okay, we make it per tool. That means opt-in for every student, for every tool. That seems cumbersome.
It does.
Except for
And
there's
yet-
only 10 right now.
Well, right now. And yet, I'm torn because the nature of what we're talking about, I want that. But I don't, so what I was thinking was, could we, if we're having an approval process anyway, and that's going to be a part of a folder that we are allowing our community district to see, could we have the opt-in be, look, everything that your students could be potentially using are in this folder. You have to opt them in to this. It's going to be, because it's going to continue to increase, right? Like, I mean, you might have something last month that the teacher, that a parent has signed for, but you're going to have something next month that they're going to have to sign for too. Isn't it their responsibility to keep checking that folder? And then that way it could be both. It could be opt-in for every single tool,
Sure.
and then we continue to update what that is. That's your responsibility to check. What do you, how does that?
And if I'm thinking through it, it would be, you basically opt into the folder, which can change its contents, and then if you have a problem with one of them where you're not going to challenge its use in the school, but you want to say, I don't want my student using that, then you could specifically opt out of that one.
But you haven't really solved the real problem. Like, we add a new tool in there.
Well,
2 months
that-
from now,
The parents would be responsible to monitor.
I think the implementation of
List.
that would be hard though, because like I'm thinking about like, especially at the high school level, do you know what I mean? It's not like there's one folder for all of high school or every like,
I think the implementation of, the implementation of opt-in per tool
Is harder,
is probably, it seems harder, yeah.
because this is just one.
Here's, if you opt in, we, as things stand right now, we in essence shut down the use of AI,
Yeah.
period. opting in, so for instance, one of the most important things we do would be to get emergency care information for your child. And you must provide that for us at the beginning of the year through Sapphire. The return rate on that is roughly 65%. After multiple emails, phone calls, we might get it to 72%. Now, my numbers are not exact, but I know I'm not really far off. And so you, in essence, get an idea of if you have to opt in every tool. If I'm a teacher and I have 26 kids in my class and 6 of them can't utilize it, but that changes tomorrow, I'm not doing that.
So even if you have an evolving folder opt-in, that's
Because
still
I'll
not
never
going to
get the
happen.
rate high
Even if
enough.
annual,
Okay.
even if the current stuff that is annually mandatory, you're only getting 70% on that.
But is it really opt-in? I mean, don't they have to do this as part of their end user agreements? Don't they have to?
Well, they do, because at the end of the day, yes, there is like, for you to use, say, Gemini or ChatGPT, you're agreeing to that specific tool's
Right.
terms and conditions.
What you may need, so COPA is designed, it's passive. So here are
What does
the
that mean,
apps.
passive?
Passive meaning, here are the apps that the district is utilizing for this particular grade span. We get parent permission to utilize, or if you're opting out of these apps or apps, you need to fill out this sheet and get it back to us.
So it's opt
So we
out.
know that. So it's opt out. And that's how COPA's designed, otherwise we'd have, we would be shut down. I mean, that's, now it's interesting if you go to, let's say your highest form, ChatGPT, your highest form, let's say, of generative AI that we would utilize. Maybe you specify for that category, there you must have active parent approval,
Yeah,
whatever.
this is where the
Okay.
classifications comes
Yeah.
into play.
That's interesting.
So what we're saying, I think, is that the nature of the tool, whether the tool requires an opt-in or opt-out, is going to become, that's going to become a per tool feature.
Kind of has to.
It kind of has to, just,
Yeah,
I mean, just because of how the end user agreements are.
right.
And it won't be very many of them anyway for opt-in because we don't, correct?
Yeah.
I think you'd be limited in opt-in. So like the big tools that we're talking about can't, like, they fit under a lower category, and my guess is parents have to be notified that we're utilizing, but if they're not opting out, you're good to move forward.
It'll just be your highest levels where we would require an
The
opt-out.
highest level of, please be aware, your son and daughter are utilizing this tool.
How do you feel about that, Joe?
I mean, so we're talking opting in
Just
for
for the.
just for the generative AI classified tools. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think.
As
that's-
long as it meshes with the
As long-
user agreement.
Yes.
So if the
Yeah.
user agreement requires an opt,
Then we have to.
which, I mean,
Then we're already
Yeah,
locked
if
in
I
with
look
the
at-
policy
Yeah.
saying we're following user agreement.
let's,
But then, like your instance with the COPA, you can continue unless a parent says, no, I want them out.
Yeah.
Right.
The parent
Well,
still
and-
has ultimate control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
If they
Yeah.
desire that.
Yep.
And, I mean, I think there's probably, like, this may evolve through the AI committee. Part of the initial syllabus that's shared with parents that, you know, okay, you're getting into AP history, we use AI for this, this, and this in it. You know, you either, you know, it's like, yes, you need to opt into this, but if you don't opt into this, you can't take this class. That may be where we have to end up going in some cases.
which can't work with core classes that they're required to take.
Right, it can't work with core classes that way, but
So just as an example, ChatGPT says if you are under 18, you must have your parent or legal guardian's permission to use the services. How would you guys interpret that right now? Does that mean opt-in is required, or does that? He's nodding. You're just looking at me. And I know, I understand.
Yeah, I would probably go the opposite version that's saying, we're utilizing this. If you're not giving us permission to do so, then you're going to let us know.
And that is a bit vague.
Here's the form.
Can you read the user agreement again?
Sure. I'll read the whole thing about minimum age. Minimum age. You must be at least 13 years old, or the minimum age required in your country to consent to use the services. I think we would go with the greater of those. So if ever the U.S. says, nope, it's got to be 15, we're going with 15. But if we'd go with 13. If you are under 18, you must have your parent or legal guardian's permission to use the services.
See, my problem is, if that's not opt-in, what is?
Well, explicit permission,
No,
maybe.
no.
We've handled a few things like this already in terms of surveys. Opt-in versus opt-out of surveys, right?
Right.
Yeah, but-
And the response rate, if it's opt-in,
And the
is very,
response
very
rate,
low.
if it's opt-in, is way lower.
And
Went from 65 to 30-ish.
And in
with some
one
of the-
school, 0%.
Yeah, and with some of these surveys, they're probably not
no.
giving us that
Like,
much
that
anyway,
doesn't,
so,
that doesn't bother me. In fact, that makes me happy.
yeah.
But that's not getting in the way of education,
Right.
and then that's
And
not
this absolutely
burdening.
could get it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not
Which is
creating a
what we don't-
burden to teachers. Like
We don't
this-
want to have unintended consequences.
So, and I mean, the legally, the idea here would be in loco parentis, which we want to avoid wherever we can, but it is a legal concept that applies to the school, that children are here and the school has responsibility for them in loco parentis and is able to act in loco parentis.
Is that just like in the care of the child, like not what they educationally, like I feel like,
Oh, it means in educational things that we're acting in loco parentis, because that's our whole purpose.
The interesting thing with this is what you get, so ChatGPT, whatever.
Yeah,
so
this is
it's
OpenAI,
ChatGPT.
so yeah, ChatGPT.
But yet, the same child that's on your computer jumps on and uses ChatGPT. So, I guess my question is, where is the responsibility from the actual vendor? If you're not allowed to use this unless you're 18, here you go, really is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, make the choice and do it if you want. Which is
Well, and
interesting.
Yeah, I
you accept
mean,
the liability
You're,
is what the
yeah,
is what
like
the
that
company's
person,
saying.
that's part of the user agreement. You're accepting the liability of saying you're 13 or you're 18 when you're actually 12. And,
And your parents are accepting the liability that they're not watching what you're doing.
right.
I'd be interested in everyone's opinion on the definition that Mr. Henkel read of ChatGPT, the user agreement. What does everybody think, opt-in or opt-out, if you were to just call that? Where are you guys at
I
with
think
that?
you have to opt in,
It's generative.
yeah.
It is,
And,
yeah.
and couldn't we create,
Well, this
we're gonna have
specific,
a
don't
list.
worry about if it's
and these are
generative.
the ones that are generative.
Yes.
This is the one
Yeah.
that scares everyone. When people are scared, they're scared of ChatGPT.
So what tools do we currently have where this is an issue? Do we know? I know we're working on the
So
inventory.
which ones would have the user agreements where it would be?
Yeah, which ones have user agreements with something like this? Do we have that information yet?
I don't have that information
In
at
front
this
of me?
point.
Yeah.
I don't see how we get around opt-in for that. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
don't.
I really don't. I mean,
But would the opt-in have to be each individual one? Or can it be that you are opting into this classification of AI?
That's
Well, that
an
was-
interesting question, but anything that approaches wording like that,
Well, that was kind of, I mean, that's, that's similar, I mean, if we did it, then your solution at least brings it down to a single opt-in, and then they can opt out of individual tools if they want. That means they may not be able to take that class, but your solution of a folder,
Yeah, but Dr. Bryson reminding us of what any opt-in
Well, no, I get
response
that.
is going to be.
yeah, I'm just saying,
I mean, you're not
Right.
even going to get half. And then the burden of the district, that's going to be employees that are having to constantly follow up to get us to half. The semester could be already over that the teacher wants to use the tool for.
well, that's where it would be useful to know.
So maybe could we get that at the committee meeting and then we could, or
Yeah.
get that for maybe tomorrow?
Yeah, it'd be useful to know if we're solving a problem we don't
Yeah,
have.
right, because we're speculating right now because we don't know.
Yeah.
So what specifically are you looking for then?
It'd be useful for all the tools we have to actually look at, because as you said, it's, right now, we have about 10 or so tools in our AI inventory. We should be able to look at all of the end user agreements, the section dealing with age and parental permission, and see,
If there's any between 13 and,
yeah, do any of these create a problem for us?
I
Yeah.
think the majority of them are 13 to 18 is with parental.
For the generative ones, I mean, I think for the,
For the reactive or the diagnostic ones,
then no.
they're
But
not, they're not
already-
usually user-facing.
But that list of 10 does it include some of the reactive, like the math, the math one that gives the problem? That's in that list.
Right.
So that's
And
what
I
I'm
know
talking
that
about.
these we wanted to take these back to the AI committee to review. So I guess my question is, are we asking that this come back to the board on Wednesday? Or, because we have not taken this to the AI committee, so I just want to get clarification.
The next AI committee meeting is what, October 3rd?
October 1st.
First.
First.
Okay, I would have been 2 days late, but now I won't be.
But we already moved first reading to October, right? So that,
Well, no, that's
Well,
that's a different policy. That's,
Yeah. That was
That's
what
for
we
the
were-
other
That's what
policy.
we were going to link this policy to.
yeah.
I thought it was both.
No, I actually was recommending you,
Both.
yeah, we were on the same page, just
Oh.
because I don't know how we're gonna get all the changes made, get them to Jeff and get them back by Wednesday.
Oh.
And the changes that
That
we
we
were
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah, that we were talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't, then it would happen after the AI committee meets again.
Okay.
Then they would be able to dig a little deeper into what would be opt-in, what would be opt-out.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ruppert, do you feel, like, does it give you pause? Do we need to expedite the passing of this policy? Or are you okay with moving it
Or
to,
just the changes to the policy?
are you okay with, as it currently stands, moving forward?
Well, I mean, we did talk about some substantial adds to it, and, I know we put this policy back on because we knew that this is going to be one we're going to continue to revisit. And I think it really comes back to the board as to what you want to have put in now, because we know it's going to come back up again in the January cycle.
But you don't
As
feel
we
like,
kind of go through the evolution of the AI committee of determining, the approval form, the process, the administrative regulations, that a lot of things we have to really flush out, as well as, the communication to parents and staff, which is really going to be like, what are the tools we're using, something we want to, we need to get out to the parents, which was a recommendation from the board of the committee to do so. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts with this, because this one's going to continue to evolve as quickly as technology evolves.
so do you or Dr. Bryson, do you have any problems with implementation now that you would need changed, that moving it to October gets in the way of?
I mean, I would think too, the definition, with the industry standards, age, as Joe pointed out, as well as the types of artificial intelligence with the bulleted items, because I do believe that's something we need to put into our vetting, so that we can identify, is it a reactive or one of the, so we can have that as one of those components that we're going to look at as we're looking at these few tools that we're going to have as a district.
I feel like I'm just going to speak from 10,000 feet from it. I think the verbiage stuff is good, is fine to change. I think like the opt-in, opt-out piece, they need time to talk about. Like, I don't know, we talked previously about what this next committee meeting looks like, and we probably got enough for 2 meetings. And that's without tonight's stuff. But I think naturally that would have become a part of it, the opt-in, opt-out. Because I do think that's the biggest, how do we do this and still not shut everything down?
Yep.
I think, for my part, I think the definitions, we can start working with those whether they're in the policy or not. Like, we can.
The categories?
Yeah, the categories of AI. We can have those show up in the inventory. There's nothing in the policy that says we can't do that. I think that the opt-in, opt-out, like you said, is a big deal. I think we could probably leave the stuff about not creating any likeness, and does that actually need Jeff's review? I mean, to say you're not allowed to create a likeness of someone using AI without their permission, within the context of.
Sounds like a legal recommendation.
Right, I mean, or maybe we can get it to him and have it back by Wednesday.
Well, aren't we
I'd like to see that one go in.
Aren't we suggesting, though, all the way around, that this gets moved into October? Like, I'm not talking about the opt-in, let's put that in the parking lot, even these other changes, isn't that what we were saying?
It was.
Right.
Well, here's where I'd like to include it, is if we can always take it back to first read. But if we decide this is an important prohibition to have in sooner rather than later, that gives us the option.
And I do agree with that one. It is a sooner rather than later.
So can we include the language about not using it for likenesses, and maybe that's the only.
Or are we also putting the language relating to policy 109.1 in there?
Not this one.
No, because
Not that
that policy needs to be updated.
Yeah, I think we're just asking just that change right now.
Yeah, because I think.
Because everything else is workable for the committee to
Yeah.
do regardless of this. It doesn't say that it has to be there.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of stuff that is good to spell out because it's the way we should do things, but nothing prevents us from doing things the way we should.
Right. But that
What
one is a restriction.
Prohibitions tell students what they can't be doing.
It's an
And
enforceable.
that is
Yeah.
something we can't do ourselves. Like, we can start using a set of definitions ourselves, whether policy tells us we have to or not. But we can't necessarily hold a student responsible for doing that if there's no policy against it, or at least it becomes more difficult. I mean, it'd still be bullying or something like that, but.
Push forward and don't include any sort of a parental opt-in or opt-out.
We don't even
Yeah.
know.
I'd say for the changes that are gonna happen between now and Wednesday.
It's just that one.
Because the opt-in or out needs discussion.
Right now, the policy does say prior informed consent.
Yeah.
From parents and guardians. That's in there right now. We just haven't we haven't
Flesh that out.
We haven't fleshed it out to, is this a blanket for different classification of AI that we didn't have before? Or is it something that we need
Well,
to
then if we
do?
pass this, doesn't this shut it down? If it says that?
Well, it's already.
It's already
It's
in
already
place. I mean,
We
this
passed
is
it
what
last
we're
time.
working off of.
But prior
It doesn't,
informed- yeah.
it's not exact,
Right.
which is what we're trying to discuss.
Yeah, because again, in prior informed consent can mean that it's opt-out, where you make sure they know, you do you make reasonable efforts to ensure they're informed. You give them the option to opt out, and if they don't, then consent is implicit.
Gotcha. And that's what we're flying under right now, Dr. Bryson, is that your understanding?
Well, right now, AI tools, quite honestly, weren't a part of the opt-in, opt-out, COPA, because of the Wild Wild West. So we haven't fully implemented the policy, even though the board said this is what we're looking for. So right now, we're identifying what are the tools, creating them, and then either approving or denying, getting them posted public with a description, examples, so that the community's informed. So we're doing a lot of different things to try to play catch up. So with that being said, we don't have consent. So it is a good time over the next couple of months for that dialogue to happen. that we then can get kind of a starting point. From that point forward, here's what we're doing.
I'm just going to throw this out as another option to kind of mull over, because of the issue of the challenges with getting opt-in and the challenges that we'll face if half the class can't use a tool that really is of great benefit. There's the option of opt-out, but we're going to really make sure that we are communicating to parents that they're, we're not just sending it out once. This is coming, this is coming, this is coming, this is your opportunity to opt out. We'll send a reminder. Here, one more opportunity to opt out, and finally, this is your final opportunity to opt out. Maybe that's an option, is to just make sure that they're if they miss that email, it's because they're just not checking any school emails, something like that.
I'm just gonna ask this, you guys figure out, so we require sign off for every field trip that our kids go on, right? And what's the response rate on those versus our other sort of internal communications?
I don't have the exact number, but I think it's pretty high
Yeah.
for attendance.
Every kid wants to go on the field trip. Yeah.
Everybody wants to go on the field trip. Everybody's gonna want to use the AI stuff. They're going, Mom, I need this. Mom, Dad, I need this. I mean, I don't think we can treat it like it's an emergency contact thing or here's another survey. This is, okay, if we're excited about putting these tools in kids' hands, they will help make us reach the threshold we need.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah.
to say.
Well, we can certainly start to try it, see what kind of responses we get. I don't know. I guess the issue there is if we start asking for permission, we're kind of implying that it is opt-in. If we're asking for, though, I don't know. Yeah, I guess think through how we can test what the response rate would be if there's a way to do that before we actually change it to be explicitly opt-in or opt-out.
Okay, so before we move on, I just want to make sure I know what we're doing. So there is the one prohibition that you want to put in for Wednesday, for the Wednesday board meeting. And then
Yeah.
everything else we're going to hold until October. The other changes that we discussed tonight, the categories and the ages.
Yeah, I guess, and I guess the challenge there is that if we decide to go back to first read, then probably the prohibition gets delayed as well, because unless we can have the same
Yeah,
policy
you
in
can't-
two stages
no,
at the same
you can't
cycle.
have that.
So all I'm saying is, if, I don't even feel that strongly. If you want to leave the whole thing for October, that's fine.
I feel like that
just-
would be straightforward.
All right, we can do that, yeah.
Yeah, my concern is, we are making, it's like one here, one there, and then whether we have Jeff look at it or not, we typically do, because if we use PSBA's wording, we don't, but if we don't, we typically do. And then, I think we understand, I'll look at Len, I think Len and I understand, but it would be important for us to have all of you look at it too, and that's a really tight turnaround for us to get it typed and back to you, and
All right, then I'm going to make this suggestion, and we can try to do this with future policies. Let's make the prohibitions a sub-policy, and you can do that as part of the same schedule. It can go in October, and let's try to do that with our policies in general, where when we have a list of prohibitions, let's make it like a .1 on the policy, or at least let's think about making it a .1, because then we can bring it up on its own, make changes to the prohibitions quickly while the rest of the policy is in, especially with complex policies like this one. that
But
have
this
lot of
one is a
moving
point
parts.
one, so are you saying like a point two?
One
It's already a point
point
one.
In the future, not currently.
Yeah, .1A,
Okay.
something like that. Does this make sense?
no, I'm not
Sorry,
following you, I
so,
apologize.
yeah, so the problem we're running into is there's a change that I think is valuable to make quickly, which is an additional prohibition. And that tends to be the kind of thing that we want to make in policy quickly, is, okay, we don't want people doing this thing, and it's not under our control. It's not like we can just say, okay, Bob, we trust you to do the right thing here, and we'll get it in policy eventually. We do not want our students doing this. It's useful if those can be in some way set off from other elements of the same policy, so that we can change them while we're working on other parts of the same policy. Because the fact that a policy goes through a 3-month cycle effectively makes it difficult. We have to make all the changes all at once.
Okay, now I'm following you, I
Yeah.
think I have a solution.
Okay, good.
So you could, I mean, if you want to add this as a prohibition, you could just put an agenda item to say the following prohibition, da-da-da-da-da, and you could vote on that Wednesday night.
Okay, and that doesn't need to go through first and second read?
Well, it's not, you're not necessarily putting it in the policy at
Okay.
that point, but you're saying this is a prohibition against whatever.
That's interesting.
All right.
Because you can
And then you can add it
vote
to the
on, and
policy
then we'll
later.
add it to the policy as
That's
part of the
really
policy cycle, so.
Thank
Does that
you.
work? Okay.
That works for me?
Yeah, because now that I understand where you're going, we have a. we can
Glad
get
you had a
solution.
solution, because I was going to say, but that changes the complete structure
I know.
of,
Yeah.
Now we gotta change all policies.
Now we don't have to do
We
that.
don't have to do it.
And in the future, when we run into this, we'll do the same thing.
Yeah, so let me work on what that looks like, but I think that's a way to
That's
be able to.
brilliant.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
Okay, so are we good? Okay. So moving on to policy 816, it's the cable broadcast channel. This policy was added by district administration with a recommendation to retire due to the discontinuation of channel 99. Any changes or comments to that?
I do. I just wanted to know, because we put it out there for months, to call us if this bothers you, this change. Did we get any district feedback at all?
Did anyone call in and say, please
No.
don't do this?
There you
No one
have it.
emailed?
Yeah, I did not hear them.
Okay, good.
All right. And moving forward to policy 902, publication program. This policy was last reviewed December 1993. The update specifies how the district will inform the public about board policies, district finances, programs, personnel, and operations. Any changes or updates to that? All right. And then moving forward to our last policy, which is 830, security of computerized personal information, breach notification. This is a mandated annual review, and there are no changes recommended at this time. All right. Oh, my goodness. So, let's see. So, 3.02, I have no other items for business. Any new business? Hearing none. For adjournment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.